His background in architecture and urban design. He's been involved in projects throughout Africa, the Middle East, the U.S. He's been involved with many organizations and civic boards.
Equity, affordable housing, homelessness. These are just some of the issues that he's driven to focus on. In tonight's We Stand Together, News 8's David Williams sits down with Indianapolis City County Council President.
His family history starts in Nigeria. Now, many years later, he is making strides in Indiana. His name, Osili. When he was a young boy, his mother told him his name means the voice of the people. It seems quite fitting, for he is now the Indianapolis City County Council President. He has worked with various individuals and organizations to expand work opportunities, skills training, and more. Just recently, he was instrumental in passing a resolution which declared racism as a public health crisis. As I sat down to talk with him, it was clear the passion he has for the city, and it seems he is just getting started. You were elected as president of the Indianapolis City County Council in 2018. It's been 2 years. How have those 2 years been for you since you were elected president?
They've been exciting. They've been an opportunity for me to see the challenges that face our city. They provided an opportunity to work with so many more people and to come up with some collective visions for where Indianapolis can go. And then, of course, in these last 4 and 5 months, maybe 6 months, there have been incredible challenges, as you know, that have faced us here in our city, across our state, across our country. And it has worked in concert with some of the things that we have been pushing for a year and a half already. One of those being equity and the discussion of that. You know, we started this year with a declaration of what we were going to be doing relative to equity. And seeing sort of the national movement, you know, sort of the global movement, I think has fed into that and given it even more impetus. But we had already started on that, just knowing how important it was that we address the disparities that we see in our community. So, you know, the discussion, as I said, you know, started at the beginning of this year in terms of officially. But we were gearing up to it last year with a couple of seminars that we invited an organization called Government Alliance on Race and Equity to acclimate members of city government to normalize the discussion about race and knowing how divisive it is and how often we shun it, that we have to start talking about it because so many outcomes are determined in this country by race.
Tell me about your reaction to the George Floyd video.
I think I was most stunned by the calm shown by Officer Chauvin. That as you murder someone, you can look into a camera and show no emotion, as though everyone should understand that this is just how we function, that it is okay to kill a black man in broad daylight with people around you and not blink. I think that was the largest shock of all, the absolute absence of remorse or regard for a human life that you were taking.
You took part in at least one parade earlier this summer to protest the death of George Floyd and other black Americans killed in recent years. Tell me why.
Because I saw, just as we started this movement within council, within local government, about addressing equity, that it was something that we all needed to embrace. No longer are we going to be sort of polite about issues of race and skirt around the edges. That it was time for all of us to be vocal about it. You know, our goal had been city government. How do we work within city government? And if we can get our house right, then we can challenge others. We're doing this, why aren't you? But we saw it all around, and it's like, yes, it is time that all of us be vocal about what we know has been tolerated for 400 years in this country.
Tell me about how you feel the city's efforts to address systemic racism are in the wake of George Floyd's death, which has sparked a national movement.
So their efforts, as I mentioned before, have been ongoing. Nothing that we're doing right now in terms of local government was necessarily catalyzed by that. We were already in that process of getting addressed. This, however, because we now see it in so many aspects of our local government, this has acted as even more fuel for us. Let's get it done. And now this is no longer working within city government. Let's get city government right, as I mentioned before. Let's do our own, let's clean our own house. This is now our community has got to be engaged in our conversations. Our community has to be actively informing us what are the actions that they see need to be done. So it has opened up our doors for hearing far more from our community members. What do they feel needs to happen for us, one, to show regard for their voices, and then to take action based on what we've heard. And that has been the driver or driving force since May the 25th, since George Floyd's death. How do we engage in this as community in a way that we've never done this before?
What from your heart is your message to Central Indiana?
It is that we are in this together, that no entity plays a singular role. If we don't operate as units, be it in government or in the private sector, in neighborhoods, in corporations, if we're not doing this together, then we will still end up with disparate outcomes because there is no transparency and there's no joint accountability. If we are working together, putting aside all of our differences, and we all have differences, if we are working together, I can keep an eye on you, you can keep an eye on me, we can set our goals, we can meet far more challenges, and then we can also put all of our resources on the table and say who does this best. We see that there's a need here. We've heard from community members who are putting their own items on the thable. How are we getting those addressed? And if we're not working as a unit, we're not doing the best job. We're just not doing it. So some of the things I think that we can learn from all of this, not just here, but I think nationally. Let's put aside the differences. Let's look at some solutions. Let's put aside our egos. Let's stop screaming. Work. Let's work together. I think we'll be so much more productive, and the outcomes will impact so many more people when we're communicating and we're working together.
Our We Stand Together series will continue to air tomorrow night on News 8 at 10 o'clock.
And remember, you can see all of our profiles online at wishtv.com.